The stone was moved, the tomb was empty, and the world would never be the same again. That is Easter, not the return of a memory, not the survival of an idea, but the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. Welcome back to Daily Saints with Grace. Today we enter Easter Sunday, the day the Church proclaims the resurrection of the Lord. Catholics throughout the world celebrate the victory of Christ over death. The Easter Day Gospel from John 21-9 begins in quiet darkness, with Mary Magdalene coming to the tomb early in the morning and finding the stone already removed. That detail matters. Easter does not begin with noise. It begins with discovery, with stunned confusion, with running feet, with an empty tomb that no one yet fully understands. John's Gospel says Mary came to the tomb while it was still dark. That is one of the most beautiful details in all of Easter, because it means the resurrection enters a world that is still carrying the weight of Good Friday. The grief is still real, the burial is still remembered. The disciples are not yet singing. No one is standing there expecting a victory parade. Easter begins in darkness. And that is why it speaks so deeply to the human heart, because so often God's greatest victory begins before we can yet see clearly what he is doing. Mary does not first see Jesus. She first sees that the stone has been removed from the tomb. That image carries the whole shock of Easter. The sealed place is no longer sealed. The place of death has been opened. The final boundary has been crossed. And at first, this does not feel like triumph. It feels like confusion. She runs to Peter and the other disciple with troubled urgency. They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we don't know where they put him. That is such a human moment. Even when resurrection has already happened, the first reaction is not instant understanding. It is bewilderment. Then the Gospel gives us one of its most vivid details. Peter and the other disciple run to the tomb. This is not the movement of men who have everything figured out. This is the movement of hearts, desperate to know what has happened. They run because grief is still active. They run because love still wants to stay close. They run because something impossible may be unfolding. And when they reach the tomb, they see signs that this is not grave robbery, not chaos, not mere disappearance. The burial cloths are there, and the cloth that covered his head is rolled up in a separate place. Easter is not presented like disorder. It is presented like a mystery already carrying the marks of divine purpose. Then comes one of the most important Easter lines in Scripture. The other disciple entered. He saw and believed. That line is small, but it changes everything. The empty tomb is not yet the full appearance of the risen Christ, but it is enough to begin faith. This is the moment when sorrow begins to crack open, the moment when death stops looking final, the moment when the impossible begins to become real. And yet John also tells us they did not yet fully understand the Scripture that he had to rise from the dead. That is Easter too. Faith beginning before everything is fully understood. The first reading for Easter Day from Acts is Peter's public witness that Jesus truly rose and appeared after his death. It presents the resurrection not as a private feeling, but as apostolic testimony. That means Easter is not just hope wins in a vague sense. It means Christ is alive. Death has been broken open. Sin is not the final word. The tomb is no longer the end of the human story. That is why Easter is the center of Christianity. If Christ had not risen, there would be no gospel worth proclaiming. But because he has risen, everything changes. Suffering, forgiveness, hope, the body, the future, and the meaning of death itself. Easter is joyful, yes, but it is not shallow joy. It is not everything is easy now joy. It is joy that has passed through Good Friday, joy that has gone through burial, joy that stands on the far side of the tomb. That is why Easter joy is so strong, because it is not denial of suffering, it is victory over it. The Church does not celebrate Easter because pain was unreal. She celebrates because pain was not ultimate. The Easter Psalm proclaims, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad." That line is not cheerful in a thin way. It is triumphant in a redeemed way. This is the day because this is the day death lost its claim. This is the day because the stone did not keep him. This is the day because Christ has risen. And if Christ has risen, the despair is never absolute. The grave is never final, and the darkest night is never beyond the reach of God. Easter is not only for people who already feel radiant. It is also for the person who still feels like Mary in the dark, still grieving, still confused, still running toward a mystery they do not yet understand. John's Easter Gospel gives room for that. It begins before clarity, before appearances, before full comprehension. So if someone is still in that place, Easter still speaks to them. Because resurrection does not depend on whether we understand it quickly. It depends on Christ, who has already conquered death. The stone was moved. The tomb was empty, and the world would never be the same again. That is Easter. The morning darkness was broken. The grave was opened. The witnesses ran. The beloved disciples saw and believed. And the church began to proclaim what would never stop being true. Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. So do not let Easter become ordinary. Stay near the empty tomb. Stand inside the wonder of it. And let the resurrection speak again to every place in your life that feels sealed, buried, or beyond hope. Because Easter is the morning death lost its power. And if this reflection helped you enter more deeply into Easter Sunday, subscribe, share it with someone celebrating the resurrection, and tell me in the comments. What moves you most about Easter? The empty tomb, the first light, or the victory over death?